What up YouTube, Salvador Brigman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. And today we're talking about how to raise money for a business. How do you capitalize a business? How do you get financing to get this thing off the ground? Every business needs cash infusions. A business does not exist if it's not continually raising money. And you can argue with me on this point, but even if you think about self-funding, you putting money into the company retaining earnings in order to reinvest profits back into the company, that is a form of a funding round. So no matter what kind of business you run out there, you will periodically have cash injections or cash infusions, be that from VCs, angel investors, crowdfunding, loans, from reinvesting the profits. You need to continue to invest money in a business if you wanted to see it to grow. And today we're talking about a few effective ways to do that. The first and most common way of financing a business comes in the form of specifically angel investing. Angel investing is basically when you get a bunch of people, typically high net worth individuals, they're making over $200,000 a year, or they have more than $1 million net worth excluding their house. They decide to invest in your company. It doesn't have to be like, it's not gonna be $100,000. This could be, they could be writing, a $50K check into your business or a $25K check. You have angels and then you have super angels. Super angels might be doing something more like $500,000 or even $1 million at the upper tiers. But basically these are individuals who are getting in at the ground floor of your business, and in order to actually gain their attention, typically this is for you through your own connections. This could be places that you've worked, people that you've worked for. It could be also you going out there and networking and meeting angels out there in person. Angels are people who are investing their own money. Their own money is at stake, so they're usually pretty protective of it. So you need to have a compelling pitch and also know that you can at least act on this and what you're going to use the money for. The next common way for small businesses to raise money is through loans. And this could also take the form of like government loans or credit cards or bank loans. This is how a lot of people get started. They'll use credit cards or they'll take out a loan. And the sad thing here obviously is you have to pay that loan back. But the great thing is you then get the cash to actually go out there and buy inventory. So a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs will need to use credit cards to actually finance their inventory because they're seeing order flow. They're having people order new products, but they need another batch of inventory. In order to do that, they need a bunch of money. So they might go out there and get a loan or credit cards knowing that in 30 days time, they're gonna be able to pay a good chunk of that back. So loans and credit cards are another way that you can actually finance and capitalize a business. The third way that is super common and very, I think, risky, but also it shows a lot that you believe in your business concept is self-funding. Now, self-funding is when you put your own savings and your own money into your business. A lot of the times, angel investors, and also we'll talk about VCs, will only work with you if you actually have some of your own capital and cash into the company because they want to see that you're bought in. So self-funding, that could come from just savings that you have built up over the years. That could come from your 401k, other assets that you have that you might sell, or creating, you could also do obviously like a loan against your house or something like that. But typically, self-funding will come from your retirement or it comes from your own savings that you've been collecting. And then instead, maybe you just don't take that trip next to the Bahamas, in a couple of months' time. Instead, you're investing it in your business. After angel investing, loans, and self-funding, we start to see people getting more into things like VCs. VC equals venture capitalist. A venture capitalist is someone who is managing other people's money. Now, they might have some of their own money in the venture capital fund if they're, a partner, but basically they are managing other people's money. There are wealthy people out there. There are hedge funds out there. There are people that are pooling together money and then they're going out there and they're investing this into startup companies. A VC's job is to assess your company, assess your business plan, assess your team, the money you've raised thus far, the traction that you have, and decide whether or not this is going to produce a 10x return in the next 5 years. They're basically putting their money across 10 different companies, maybe 11 or 12, and hoping that 2 or 3 of them really make back all of the money and also do that and then some. it doesn't really matter. If you invest in Uber as a venture capitalist, you're probably made some pretty decent money. Same thing for like Google or Facebook. You're basically trying to pick winners if you are a venture capitalist, and you can raise a lot bigger figures. You know, if you're getting a 50K check from an angel investor, VCs, obviously, depending on the funding round, can put like $1 million. They can put upwards of $15 million. In the later rounds, they might be putting 20 million or even more. And you might even have like a series of different firms that are participating in an overall funding round for a company. The key thing here when it comes to venture capitalists is that you are basically on a runway. Once you take funding from anyone else, you are then under the onus of having to produce a return for them. And I know it sounds like great, like, oh wow, we raised $5 million or we raised $2 million. Like, that's incredible. But at the same time, what does that mean? That means you have the obligation of having to produce a return for those individuals, and they want you to spend that money. They want you to get an ROI to continue to do different funding rounds, and then at some point to have an exit, whether that's a sale of the company or doing an IPO. So when you take venture capital money, while it's great and it sort of frees up a lot of resources and allows you to do a lot of stuff, it also means you're on a runway, and now everything gets a lot more pressure and time sensitive, and you really have to work very long hours in order to produce a return for these folks. I've also seen a lot of great companies, very healthy companies that will grow organically. What does that mean? Organically, I would say this is more artificial growth because you're basically injecting cash from other people out there. An organic growth comes from retained earnings and reinvestment of the profits. So let's just say that you start a business, you end up making $500,000 that year, and you set aside $100,000 of that revenue in order to reinvest into creating new products. That's what I mean by reinvestment. You're reinvesting the profits into advertisements, into marketing, into creating new products, into discovering and learning maybe about new markets so you can continue to grow the business. This is an organic way to grow your company and to actually, it's a form of raising money, I would say, because you're basically reinvesting it. It's sort of your own cash injection. The downside to this is it's usually very slow. If you think of venture capitalists, it's almost like, if you've ever seen like the Fast and Furious movies and they like push a button and like nitrogen then like comes out and they're like going really, really fast down the road, or basically, venture capitalists is like you're now having this explosive propellant behind you, a bunch of money, and you can grow very, very quickly. With organic growth, you're growing much more slowly, but you're not doing it too fast, where you can actually fulfill the orders that come in. You can make it so that you're taking the appropriate right steps. There isn't that same urgency behind being a part of a venture capital round where like now you have to produce a return for other people. You are still your own boss when you're reinvesting your profits. And that's one of the reasons why I am not really very interested in like VC funding for my own company or anything, because I don't like the idea of having to give up control to other people. I'd rather grow more slowly in order to have freedom myself, and it's the kind of lifestyle that I want to lead. The final way I want to talk about when it comes to raising money and financing a company is crowdfunding. This is my area of expertise. Crowdfunding via Kickstarter, Indiegogo, equity crowdfunding. There are a lot of different forms of crowdfunding. I have a book out there called Equity Crowdfunding Explained, going into that. I also have the Kickstarter launch formula. It goes more into raising money on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Crowdfunding is special because it's kind of like a hybrid of many of these other types. So with crowdfunding, if you're doing traditional Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you are not giving up equity. So it's not like a VC firm or an angel investment firm. At the same time, you're not taking a loan or anything like that. So it's not like that either. But what you are doing is you're basically locking in consumer demand. Let's just say like 1,000 people support your campaign on Kickstarter. That means 1,000 people have essentially pre-ordered your products. You can take that money, you can buy the initial products, do the initial production run and deliver that to the hands of your customers, and then release another product or use the profits to fuel the expansion of the business. So crowdfunding is cool because you can create a pitch video out there, put that on Kickstarter, start to get some general interest in your project, get some funding, and then also as a result of that have an initial customer base and connect with other people that might be interested in helping your business in the future. So I love crowdfunding for that reason. So I mean, that kind of begs the question. I was like, what's the downside of crowdfunding? Well, there are some downsides. Like you have to prepare for one of these campaigns. It's one of the reasons why I am so passionate passionate about putting out quality education because there's a lot that goes into one of these projects. You have to think about rewards, you have to think about the pitch video, you have to figure out which platform you want to launch on, you have to create the initial prototype of the product. There's certain categories that are different from other ones if you're doing software versus physical products. So crowdfunding in and of itself is this whole entirely new industry. And if you're interested, I can teach you more about that. So I will link down below to a book that I have that basically goes step by step through this entire process. And also I invite you to dive into this YouTube channel if you are interested in learning more about crowdfunding and the ways that it can help your business. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview of some of the different ways you can capitalize your company, different ways you can raise money and sort of begin the building of this engine, which is going to become an empire for you. It's going to change your life and the lives of your employees. Again, my name is Salvador Brigman. I will see you next time.